I have had these metal silver trays inside my craft room for so long. I get them from the Dollar Tree. They still have them. I think they have an oval shape one as well. But we're going to use them today to turn them into artwork. I bought a bunch of them a long time ago because I wanted to make something with them and I never got around to it. So today, we're going to use a stencil and some paint. And you can use whatever paint you want. I'm just using acrylic paint to show that you can do it with acrylic paint too. You don't have to have anything fancy. You can tape it off and spray paint it if you want. You can use chalk paint if you want. Whatever you want. Use your supplies. But I'm going to use acrylic paint. And I didn't have the exact color I was looking for, so I just mixed my colors together. I added a little bit of black, a little bit of brown, and then an apple green, because I wanted to get a green color. So almost like an olive green. And then here's the funny thing. After I painted all three of the trays their first layer, I decided that I didn't want to do olive green anymore. I wanted a sage green. So I added some white to it, and then I ended up with the perfect color. I just love sage green. I've always loved sage green. Years ago when I was a teenager, my mom would let me paint my room different colors as a teenager, and like every year I would paint my room a different color. Once upon a time I painted my room sage green, and it was just such a calm, soothing, beautiful color. Leave a comment down below to let me know if you like sage. It's kind of funny, it's a trending color again. Like, trends are so weird, they come and go, you know? And I don't hold my breath on trends. I just do what I like to do for my home, but it's a trending color again. Once the green was all dry, I'm now going to come in with this stencil packet I got from Amazon. I will link it down below. There are all these beautiful leaf stem picks that are artwork stencil pieces. When I do my stencils, I do not add a lot of paint. I like to do what's called steepling. You're going to take very little paint. You're going to put down your stencil, hold it in place. I'm not using tape this time. I usually put it down with tape, but you're going to put it down, hold it in place if you don't want to use your washi tape. And then you're just going to tap, 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 tap. And I go over each one or two times by steepling, and it's where you tap your brush. You don't want to drag, because when you drag a brush, the paint gets underneath the stencil. Now I am doing 3 different artworks, and you can see that I am adding on a bunch of different branches of the same stencil for each artwork. Just make sure your stencil is dry on the bottom, wipe it off before you use it again. But when we're done, it makes the most beautiful artwork, and this looks so incredibly high end. I hope you will give this one a try. The silver with the paint and the leaves, so beautiful. This project is so simple and great for beginners. Let's say you want to try something new and you don't want to necessarily try a bunch of tools. Pick up one of these trays from the Dollar Tree and let's give it a makeover. I went outside, I spray painted it white, which is really easy and simple to do. Just make sure you put something down on the ground so that it doesn't spray paint other places, because that will be permanent. And then once it's dry, after a few hours, I bring it inside, and now I'm going to take some sandpaper and just sand around the edges to bring up that texture. Then I'm going to put in some shells. These are kind of like shell pebbles. I think that's what they are. I've had these forever, but you can use all sorts of different goodies that they have in their floral section at the Dollar Tree. And then I'm going to come in with some stones. This has such a beautiful Restoration Hardware or Pottery Barn or even Ballard Home design look to it. Once you've got your pebbles on there, light your candle and set it out for display. For this project, we're going to be using one of these large signs, a tag sign from the Dollar Tree, some florals, and some fabric. I'm going to be using a denim fabric, a leftover wall tile that I've spray painted white. I just wanted to repurpose this leftover piece, and then a piece of cardstock. Now, you could skip this entire part right here if you do not need to freehand a mason jar. There are also lots of free images online where you can print them out on a piece of paper and cut them down. Now you can see here that I have 3 lines. I drew one down the middle of the paper. It doesn't have to be perfect. I went 2.5 inches off. That's where those 2 dots are. Drew some more lines. I drew a line at the top and the bottom, and that is going to be the glass part of the jar on how long you want it to be. And then you can see that I have 2 more on the inner and then another 2 more going vertical. We're making all of these grid lines and boxes because we need to be able to make an even symmetrical rounded top for the top of the jar, and then these top 2 boxes in the middle, the top row. This is the neck of the jar. I'm going to make some little bumpy lines here so we know that's where the cap screws on. And then down at the bottom, we're going to add 2 little dots, and we're going to curve out a smaller curved in line. The top of a mason jar is more curved and rounded versus the bottom. It's got a wider base. Once all of those lines have been drawn, I hope that was simple to follow along. I was trying to show it as simple as possible. Once you've drawn all your lines, just cut it out. You have this perfect large mason jar to work with. Or, like I said, you could just go online and find an image and print that and cut that out. I'm going to take my image, trace it onto my tile, cut apart that piece that I need, pull off that plastic sticker backing because it comes apart when you cut those tiles, and then put it to the side. Now I took off the bow and the string from my tag, and I'm going to pull my fabric really, really tightly onto my tag. I know it looks a little bit wrinkled, but you won't notice that in the end once it's all glued down nice and tight. I took my scissors and cut off the extra going all the way around my tag, and I really liked this option. Taking sandpaper to denim is actually really cool because it distresses the sides perfectly. So I just roughed it up, and then any little fibers that were too long I didn't like, I just trimmed those off. But I really loved how distressed the denim looked on the side of the tag. Now we're going to glue down the mason jar vintage tile that we worked on earlier. Glue that right down in the middle towards the bottom of your tag. Make sure it's straight. You can see here I adjusted it before the glue dried. And this is such a quick way to distress these tiles. I'm using a black ink pad, lightly tapping the top, and then I'm coming back in with a chestnut brown and just lightly tapping on top of the black, and it gives it a distressed look. Now I'm going to bring in my florals. This is going to turn out so beautiful at this point. I'm adding in Dusty Miller. I'm adding in a new floral they brought out at the Dollar Tree. These are ranunculus flowers. I love a ranunculus flower. And then I'm going to bring in some of these little greenery desert flowers. I just like the look of the white being in there, but any small white flower you might have on hand would work. And then to finish the look, I'm going to add a twine bow, trim the tails of my bow, and at this point, it's so pretty. We are going to take this garden bowl, a dessert treat bowl from the kitchen section at the Dollar Tree, and then some of these half wood rounds that I picked up on Amazon. Take some E6000 and some hot glue and glue the little dessert cup bowl at the bottom of this garden bowl. Once those are glued in place, and by the way, I used hot glue and E6000 to make sure I'm locking it in for a really strong bond. Once that's glued in place, I'm going to come back in with some hot glue and I'm going to go around the rims of the two bowls with these wood beads and some hot glue. Once you've got those all glued in place, this part is totally messy, but I will say it is a really fun project, and these bowls can be so expensive, and we're basically making it for under $5. And so what we're going to do is we're going to squeeze some of the caulk all over the bowl, and we're going to use some water and just keep spreading it all over the bowl. Once it's all smoothed out and you've got this beautiful texture to it where it looks like it's a concrete, we're going to go ahead and let it dry. This is so important to let it dry overnight because the caulk does need some time to just get hard, and it's going to make the bowl really strong. So at this point, it's all dry, and I'm going to take some white paint, go over the whole thing. I'm going to use my heat gun to speed up the process a little bit, but remember the base of this is plastic, so you don't want to keep it in the same place for a long time. Keep it moving. Now we're going to come in with some different tints of gray. Light, dark. I'm even going to add in a brownish gray color, and we're going to just keep layering with dry brushing onto the bowl. At this point, you're going to start to panic and think, oh my word, I'm destroying this thing. What am I doing? But this is actually what you want it to look like, because in the end, we're going to come back in with a little bit of white paint. And as we start to slowly rub that white paint around, it's going to start to smear it, and it's going to have that marbled or concrete look to it. Once it's all dry, you are ready to use it as a catch-all bowl on a beautiful table. This lantern has gotten a lot of FaceTime on a lot of YouTube channels, but I want to show how I would style mine. I love these lanterns. They are a great Pottery Barn knockoff dupe. Grab them if you're doing weddings or summer parties, whatever it is. These are so beautiful. Also pick up a tall cylinder glass vase, a candle, and some sand. I think this would be so pretty to style these outside at an outside wedding, and it would just light up the night. Now I'm going to take my sand, I'm going to put it into the glass hurricane. I'm going to fill it up where there's probably about 2 inches of sand in it, maybe about 1.5 inches. It just depends on how much sand you want to put. And then after you've got your sand in, you're going to go ahead and place your candle inside. You could also put water in this with a floating candle, and that's really pretty too, but I really love the sand, and this is just how I would personally style it. And then put this into your lantern. Adding the glass inside really does illuminate the light even more. I hope you'll give this one a try and use it for an upcoming party.